Now, you may have heard that transcribing is one of the best things you can do to get better as a musician and to improve your jazz language, your jazz improv, or honestly improve at any other genre too. So how do we start transcribing, and why is it so good for us? What does it actually do? If you want to know the answers to these questions, I'm going to be telling you everything I know about transcribing and a step-by-step process and how you can get the most out of it. If that sounds interesting to you, let's get into it. One of the reasons that transcribing is so good for you is because you get so much more out of it than you ever could just looking at a piece of music. By listening to great musicians and trying to learn it from ear and doing it on your own, you're gonna be getting information that just simply can't always be notated in traditional sheet music. Some of this includes articulation, their phrasing, how they're leading the line along with their dynamics, their ghost notes, their accenting, their intonation, their swing feel. There's just so many different details to dive into. And when we start taking all of that in with our ear and just putting it into the horn, something magical happens, and we are just going to learn so quickly that way. So when you're transcribing, it's very important that you get into these details. Don't let them pass by. One of these details that we see on saxophone is different fingerings. For example, is Cannonball Adderley playing the D just regular fingering like this? Or is he adding the side key to make the D sound a little fuller? See, there's a big timbre difference there. Same thing with high E. Is it the side E like this? Or is it the front F key like this? They all have these very subtle differences. And so what we want to do is become a nerd about the details. And I mean a nerd. I've heard people go off on tangents about just one note that Michael Brecker played and how groundbreaking it was for them. And that's what you need to start doing too. Start noticing the details and fall in love with them. Does Charlie Parker just play some random line and it's just notes and rhythms? No, there is so much emotion and soul behind it, and that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to get the soul out of the music and try and learn as much as we can from it and put it into our own ear and into our own playing. Another reason I love transcribing that I don't necessarily hear people talk about as much is being able to recognize where things are coming from, kind of like the lineage. So if I go to a performance and I hear someone play a lick that I really like, I could point it out and be like, oh, that's that Charlie Parker lick that he plays in this song at this point. Or, oh, that's that John Coltrane lick that he plays over here. That's kind of what makes jazz so fun. Everyone's learning from each other, and everyone can look up to the great masters of this music and just find little Easter eggs all over of people taking it in and learning from it and putting it into their own play. So now that we've talked generally about some of the benefits and reasons why reading sheet music just isn't enough, there are a couple other reasons I want to mention that learning things by ear can be so helpful. One of them is that when we transcribe, we can take whole solos and gradually improve in every area from them, because if you think, I'm studying with Cannonball Adderley. He's not here with me in person, but I'm listening to the recording and I'm slowly developing my technique by playing these fast lines that I wouldn't have been able to play before. And I'm slowly developing my rhythm because I'm noticing, I was slightly early and he played it a little bit later, so let me adjust and fix that. I'm learning more how to improve my tone. He's very powerful and full in those high notes. So can I make my own playing more powerful and full in the high notes when I'm improvising my own solos? So slowly, we're improving all of these areas little by little, all at the same time. Instead of dedicating 30 minutes of your practice to tone, 30 minutes to rhythm, 30 minutes to vocab, which is a good thing to do, I can do all of that in one session just by transcribing. So that's why people say if you only have time to do one thing, transcribing might be a really good idea because you can kind of hit all of them all at once. Another thing about being a nerd and getting into these details is something magical happens when people transcribe like this. They start to really become that person. One amazing person who is really phenomenal at transcribing is Aldana. I'd highly recommend you to check her out and check out some of her transcriptions, because you can tell like her tone just transforms into whoever she is transcribing. Even if it's a trumpet player, you know, she plays tenor sax, but she can make the tenor sax sound like a trumpet player, because that's just how good she is at matching those details. The sky is the limit with transcribing, as we've seen, but I'm going to break it down for you who have never done it before and are just getting started, and watching someone like Aldana seems incredibly overwhelming. Don't worry, I'm going to break it down so that we can do it super easy. The first thing I tell my students to do when they're first getting started is think of a song that is really easy for you, like something so basic and so elementary and you just know it off the top of your head. Something like hot cross buns. You could sing that in your head, right? Hot cross buns, da 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 da. Okay, let's try playing it. So I'm starting in a different key. Is that okay that I sang it in a different key than I'm playing? Yeah, we're just getting started. Just try it in the new key. Now, if you try this and you mess up, that's okay, figure it out. It's just like a little puzzle, you got it. If that felt super easy, try something a little harder. Maybe try a Christmas song. Do you know Silent Night? Try that one. Da 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 da. Okay, let me try and figure out that phrase. See, I played a G. I knew that wasn't the right note. Instantly corrected. Played an F sharp. And then I'll sing the next part. Ba da 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 da. There I go again. See, I played a C natural. That wasn't the right note. Instantly corrected to C sharp. If it's not instant for you, that's okay. Just take your time, figure out, okay, that note sounded a little lower than I need. Let me try a higher note. Keep going with that process. Figure out the whole song. If that's feeling really easy for you, I like to start with melodies. If you've never done a melody before, that can be a really great place to start transcribing. Autumn Leaves is a great one. It's pretty simple. If you've done a couple melodies now and you're like, hey, I think I feel comfortable with this, then let's try and introduce a solo. Some really simple and melodic solos are going to be the best to begin with. Maybe something by Miles Davis. Don't go too crazy and start learning some really difficult, giant steps, John Coltrane. Start with something simple. Once your ear starts developing and learning to make those corrections and figuring out, okay, I was a little lower here, it's something higher, your ear is just going to develop and get better and better, just like a muscle. We're just working it out until we can get better and better at it. And something that you may have noticed that I did even with those very basic nursery rhymes is that I was singing it before I was playing it. I already knew the melody so well, I could sing it off of the top of my head. But with new solos that you've never really heard before, I can't just sing those off the top of my head. I have to listen to them many, many, many times until I can sing them all the way through. Listen to it at least 10 times for every one time that you play it. Because if you're just playing it over and over without listening to it in between, it's easy for a lot of those details to get lost and for you to start imposing your own sort of concept onto it that's not actually maybe what they're playing. And that can actually just hinder your progress overall. Once we've listened enough that we can sing through it and we can do maybe a whole chorus or even just 8 bars, just take it however many bars you need to at a time, then we can start trying it on the instrument. Something else, especially for beginners, that I would like to emphasize is learning your scales and learning patterns and arpeggios are going to be really helpful to your ear and to learning this music. So for my warm-ups for students, I like to make sure they know their 12 major scales, because if you don't know your 12 major scales, transcribing is going to be especially difficult for you. You're not going to know what key you're in or what the tonality is or where it's going, and just learning to play those simple scales on your instrument is going to help you start to recognize what these sounds sound like, and even to more advanced scales. So if I hear someone soloing, I can pick up, oh, they're playing the harmonic minor scale. How do I know that? Why do I know that? Because I've practiced my harmonic minor scales and I know that sound in my ear. Same thing with arpeggios. If I hear someone play, I'll know that's a minor 7 arpeggio. How do I know that? Because I practiced my minor 7 arpeggios. So I would make sure you practice as many scales, arpeggios, and patterns as you can. Even simple identifiable like licks, like a 1, 2, 3, 5. I can know that sound. And then when I hear Coltrane play that, I'm like, that's 1, 2, 3, 5 pattern. I know how to play that. So that when we're learning these solos, it's not like just a random jumble of notes. I'm kind of starting to analyze what he's doing, you know. Why is it sounding like that? Why is he descending like that? Oh, I can see it's a chromatic descending scale. Or, oh, this is just an enclosure to this note, okay? So we're getting a little into the analysis here, but just want to put that out there. You need to make sure you're practicing these fundamentals, because that's going to help you so much when you start transcribing. So some people ask me, how do you memorize your transcriptions? Like, how do you have them in your ear and you can just whip them out like that? Well, the answer is I actually don't write them down. Now, we will talk about writing down your transcriptions, but for now, after you've sung it, you've listened to it, you can put it on your instrument, don't write anything down. Just keep learning it until you have it completely memorized. And by doing it without writing it down, it's actually quite simple for me to memorize it, because when I'm playing it over and over and I'm working on the details and I'm getting into the lines, the memorization just happens naturally. If it's a really tricky solo, I might just do this a couple bars at a time and just add a couple more bars the next day and add a couple more bars the day after that. So just piece by piece, I'm working through it. And I don't just play the couple bars and then forget about the rest of the start from the very beginning and play all the way through until the point where I've stopped. Because then repeating that process and going a little farther and a little farther each time, then it's just so easy to memorize it naturally. A trick I like to do to make sure that I've truly memorized something is to start in random places. So I was saying earlier, I like to start at the beginning to make sure I can play it all the way through. But I also like to start at random places just to make sure I can pick up and be like, oh, he's right there in the solo. Oh, it's right there in the solo, right? Because if I start in the middle at maybe 1 minute and 30 seconds and I'm like, I can't start here, I have to start at the beginning, I have to get that flow, then maybe I don't have it under my fingers quite as well as I thought I did. You know, I want to be able to start at any point and be like, oh yeah, I got it, he's right here. Oh yeah, I got it, I'm right there, right? So that's one trick I would suggest to help make sure that you've really got it under your fingers. Now for those very tricky solos that need some extra attention and you need some extra help with, slowing it down can be very helpful, especially looping it. So the software I like to use most for that is called Music Speed. For this app, you basically just download whatever song you want and then input it. You can change the speed, you can change the intonation, you can do loops. It's very easy. I used to do all of my solos on YouTube using the 0.75 and then winding it back with my finger. But that can be kind of annoying, and having the loop, especially even just listening to something on loop to make sure that I can really understand it, is very helpful. So I would recommend that app, or you can also do this in a DAW like Logic. That's also an option. Just having an app on my phone has been the easiest thing for me. One other thing I would really recommend you to do after you finish transcribing is to record yourself along with the video. By recording yourself and listening back, you'll get into even more details because you'll start seeing by listening to yourself, playing it with them, like, oh, I was a little out of tune there, let me fix that. Or, oh, I didn't quite know this part as well as I thought I did, let me keep playing that part over and over again. If you want to see some of the transcriptions that I've done, I'll put a link up here that you can check out. But yeah, I'd really recommend you to record yourself, and if you want to even post it, mention me and I would love to watch your transcriptions. So now that you've memorized the solo, you have it in your fingers, now we can think about writing it down. Now, I'm not someone who typically writes down my transcriptions very often, but I do feel like it could be very helpful, and I do kind of wish I had done that more often. Why? Because you can get a lot of other information writing it down once you've learned it. Some of the things I think you can get out of writing it down afterwards is primarily the analysis. So we can take the chords, put in all of the notes, and we can start identifying licks, 2-5-1 patterns, we want to learn all 12 keys, and just seeing like, oh, okay, this was like 8th note line leading into 16th note line. We can start to map out how they're using different rhythmic devices. And that's the biggest one for me, is I feel like rhythm is hard for me to see in my head. I have to really see it on paper for me to like know specifically what rhythms are being played. I can play the rhythm without seeing it, but to know specifically, oh, that was a triplet going into 8th notes and then landing on the and of 4 or whatever. That's something that I like to see written out. And also writing it out myself and doing the work myself and counting, okay, 1 and 2 and 3, okay, he came in there. Figuring all that out is really helpful for me just to get better at rhythm and to understand, okay, that's what an and of 3 feels like when Charlie Parker plays it. Okay, that's what an and of 4 sounds like when Cannonball Adderley plays it, right? Because everyone has a slightly different time feel and a slightly different way that they're placing these notes or accenting these notes. So that's why I think writing out can be helpful. Additionally, writing out your solos can be just kind of a nice little keepsake and can help you memorize them longer than you would otherwise, or not even just memorize them, but remember them. Because you may have it memorized for, this month or whatever, but in a few years, it's pretty unlikely you're still going to be able to play that whole solo top to bottom, and having it written out and having it done by yourself is going to help you just keep up with it and kind of remember all the hard work you've done. Now, a note to the other genres. This isn't actually something just for jazz. When I have a really tricky classical etude, I've actually gotten to the point where I would prefer to learn it by ear than by reading the sheet music. And classical is one of those genres that we read sheet music all the time for. Like, classical music is the reading genre. But I've just found that I can learn material faster now by doing it by ear than by reading the sheet music. When I read the sheet music, I have to slow it down so much now. When I listen to a recording of someone play it, I can just pick it up so much faster with my ears now. And that's not something I would have ever said before. I mean, when I was very first starting this journey, I had a really hard time differentiating a half step from a whole step. I really had to put in the work and the effort. And so don't be discouraged if this takes you a long time, because it took me a long time. Trust me, my ears were not that developed before. But just doing it every day, little by little, you'll get better and the work will pay off, I promise. Now you might be wondering, do I ever use Charlie Parker Omni books or things like that? Because I made a video here where I include them. The answer is I don't really use them for the purpose of transcribing, because I'm not transcribing, I'm reading. And I don't really use them for the purpose of learning those solos, because I'm not really going to learn it from reading it. Actually, the real reason I use those Omni books is for practicing my sight reading, of all things. So yeah, I wouldn't really recommend picking up transcription books with the intention of learning solos from them. Again, if you really want to learn the solo, you have to put in the work and do it by ear. That's the way it's really going to stick with you. I think sometimes when we're transcribing or practicing a lot, we can get really caught up in the technical details and kind of the academic side of it, which is very important. Like I said, with those warm-ups and scale patterns, it is super important. But The nice thing about transcribing is that along with that phrasing, we sort of understand the emotion behind it. You know, it's like we can hear the longing in their sound or the beautiful nostalgia that they're trying to convey. It's not just the rote list of notes and rhythms to be pulled out whenever you need it like a tool, you know, because ultimately music is emotive and expressive, and if we can get back into that, then that's what it's really all about. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, comment, or subscribe below. It really helps me out. And if you're looking to take your study even further, sign up down below for a one-on-one 15-minute consultation to see if you'd be a good fit for my private lesson studio, where we can work together more deeply, more personally, and tailored exactly to your needs and your goals. So if that sounds interesting to you, the link is in the description. And I also have a newsletter for any of you who want to just more casually follow along and see any updates or any gigs I'm playing or anything like that. I also include tips and more information for musicians who want to grow in their playing and in their musicianship. And with that being said, happy practicing and happy transcribing. Bye!